Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at the Site Ops meeting. I'm Caitlin Hutchinson, and I am going to kick things off a little bit before we get started. If you're just settling in and need an agenda, Dana is in the front here. She can wave her arm. If you need an agenda, come snag one from her. And then if you haven't yet done so, while you enjoy eating your dinner, if you can pull up on your phones with the QR code, our survey, we'd love to get your input as we'll be chatting through some things right now. Give this just another minute while people click away. So first off, just to see where people are coming from, it looks like we have about 30 folks here on site and about 10 virtually. So 3/4 of us, it looks like, are back in the swing of in-person meetings, and we're really happy to have people coming back to the meetings. But I also have to say it's really, really nice that we've kind of adopted this hybrid approach so that folks from a distance can still participate. So our next question was, in one word, how would you describe your past month? Oh boy, it seems like we've all been a little bit up to our eyeballs. I see busy, hectic, but productive. I see that growing in numbers here. So challenging. I see that some folks, well, there's a lot of overwhelming here. There's an element of calm. So I think that most of us can agree that this profession is full of a lot of stress, but hopefully a lot of it gets centered down in what we're really trying to get after, which is taking care of our patients and giving them the best possible access to research. I think that staying busy is a really big part of this, and it's always that. Even if you have a quiet day, I think all of us can find things to keep ourselves busy. I really like seeing that despite the hectic feelings, we also see a lot of productivity, because I think that makes a lot of the feelings worth it at the end of the day if you feel like you're checking your boxes. But busy, I hear ya. So in what word on those lines are you most grateful for at work? So in a world that's full of busyness and sometimes feeling overwhelmed and knowing that we have too many tasks to complete in a day, our colleagues and our coworkers are among the biggest benefits of our job. Of course, the patients come through, and I'm really grateful that I get to work almost daily with patients too. But I show up at work and I'm grateful that I have my team to rely on, whether I have a busy day in the clinic or I get to sit back at my desk being part of a team. We always like joke, because I know it's really cheesy, but the whole teamwork is the dream work. There's a lot of that in clinical research. It takes a village to really get a trial developed and up and off the ground. So I'm glad that you guys have kind of the same feelings at your offices, and know that, SWOG, we're here to support the development of good teamwork and collaboration. And then using one word, what's something you're looking forward to here at this group meeting? Excellent. Learning and networking. Those are two wonderful things that we're here to offer you. And our site ops meeting is a big push for that. We have many other sessions too to contribute to your learning. Pizza, man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna get some deep dish sometime this week. It's happening. So I do like seeing that we have the collegiality coming through this, and connectivity, and knowledge building. So on that, I'd like to know if there's any topics that SWOG can do to provide clarification or education specific to what your interests are. So we will take this question back with us in the development of future sessions. So this is really, really helpful information. We really care about delivering training and informational sessions to you that will serve you when you go back to your sites. So with that little start, I'd like to welcome you again and introduce you to Connie Shapanik, who is our chairwoman for this ORP Site Ops meeting. Connie, thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Chicago. Here we are. It's fall. I don't know how we got here so quick. We've been just commiserating all day about the short turnaround time between the spring meeting and the fall meeting. So if it crashes and burns, at least we have really great food. And we thank Courtney for taking such good care of us and picking such great menus for us all. But welcome, we're so glad you're here. There's so much going on in SWOG. So this meeting and really all of our ORP sessions are going to heavily focus on resources, changes, updates, some really amazing progress that's happened since we saw each other in the spring. It's kind of phenomenal. So you'll hear a lot about new things, and a lot of that is not just one person. As Caitlin said, it takes a village. There's a whole lot of people that have been rolling up a whole lot of sleeves and doing a whole lot of stuff on the side, just to bring us to a new place based on some of the things we've been talking about and some of our struggles. So I hope you enjoy this meeting. I hope you go away rejuvenated and refreshed. And we'll start with a lot of announcements. Logistics details are what they always are. You're pros at this. I won't go into this, but phones on silence and all that kind of thing. But do post your questions in the chat. We may have time for some questions from the floor as we go, but we'll see how that goes. This is our agenda for tonight. We have some really fabulous updates. The NCI will be presented. Andrea Denikoff will update us. We have some really cool proceedings to tell you about with our lead ORP training, formerly called our head CRA training. We have a number of SWOG updates that are really significant. And then we'll end on a bright note and get ready for tomorrow morning, bright and early for OISHI and open forum. There are no formal CE credits for this meeting, but we do want to encourage you to keep a copy of the agenda and record how much time you spent here if you need to account for SOCRA or ACRP or other record keeping. But to start with, this committee is really your committee. We're here to serve you. All of you who are in here are here because you care about cancer research. And so that's really the bottom line. We're here to do things that will help forward our mission and help us serve our patients. This is a group of really cool people, our ORP executive committee members, and I know that you all hate this, but if you're here, will you stand up just so everybody can see who you are? Anthony, Annette's back there. She has a gold star because she figured out how to retire, but she's still part of us and working, as you'll hear. Dana. Who's on the other side? I can't see. There's Deb, there's Joyce. Aaron, and then Liz and Caitlin up here with me. These are all people that are working on your behalf. And these are the committees that work as part of ORP together, and you can see who they are. But for nursing research, Jamie Myers faithfully continues to lead that. Our ORP liaisons are led by Sandy Annis and Aaron Sebula. And I have to say, there's been a lot of interest in the last couple months from people saying, do you still need a liaison, or what committees have openings? So if you're interested at all, reach out to us and we can help make that match, and Sandy and Aaron will help see where the openings are and direct you. But that's a really important role and emerging role in ORP, because the voice of us, we the boots on the ground, is really helpful to the SWOG headquarters, the leaders, the protocol authors, QA, everyone. Membership is led by Anthony and Lisa. Education, our fabulous leaders, Joyce Tall and Deb Bergevin, and then site operations. Those are our committees, and we're here to serve you. Just a couple things to point out. The SWOG website, which we go to when we have to and need to, but just take a few minutes to peruse some of the new changes that are there. There's been a lot going on. So I really want to point you to the member resources section. There's a quick link there to get contact info for all the committee leaders. So if you're not sure where else to go, that's a good place to start. You can also query the membership and Google names and things like that. But if you're looking for a specific person, that's a good way to find them. And also, you'll hear about our lead ORP training. That's already there with links and a lot of other things. And there's also links to get more deeply involved. Our nursing research committee has been very busy helping to expand and develop the role for APPs. Their clinical trial workshop, which they held previously, is there. There's a QR code that you can easily link to find out about it more, but also to share with your APPs in your local community as you develop and expand how they help partner with you to conduct clinical trials. The delegation of task log has also been updated, and we're going to talk about that some more, but we just want you to be aware that it's been expanded now to include non-physician investigators. QA has been busy. They're now holding quarterly seminars for us, and there's one coming up really right around the corner next week. So again, notice this. This is, again, at our request, a suggestion that came from us, and QA responded, and here we are. Really great direct opportunity to ask questions. The Hope Foundation is celebrating their 30 years. So this is a big deal. This meeting is their anniversary, and what they do for us is unheralded. So stop by their table and thank them. They provide the refreshments, they provide travel awards. We had 12 people sponsored on travel awards to this meeting this time that couldn't otherwise come from 12 different sites. So Hope Foundation is really phenomenal. Feel free to reach out to them if there's a way that you want to donate. They'd be happy to help you with that, or you can go home with some really cool swag that says the Hope Foundation. They always have cool stuff. They also have some grants around the corner, and all these links will be in your handouts that are posted. They're also looking for new board members. So with that, you can see there's a lot going on from a lot of different places and angles across SWOG, but we're going to hear from the NCI, which has also been very busy, responding to many requests from all of us. So Andrea Denikoff is here to give us a few updates from NCI. Welcome, Andrea, and thank you for being here. We were just talking, it's been how many years since you've been able to come in person to be with us? 3 years. Here we are together.
Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. And for those of you who don't know me, I've been at the NCI a long time. In terms of being head of NCTN Clinical Trials Operations, I've been working with the NCTN since 2014 when it launched. And by background, I'm a research nurse, oncology nurse practitioner. I've worn lots of different hats over my career. And the biggest thing I have to say to all of you is thank you for the work you do. I've been in your shoes. I know how hard it is. And I think it's gotten harder in the last decade or so, and really the last several years. And I think the experience with COVID has made it even more challenging, I think. But I know it's made my life a lot busier at work too. But in terms of updates today, when Connie asked me to speak, I said, I'm so much in the weeds with so many different things at work that I'm thinking, what do they want to know? What are we working on? She's always like, you've got so much you're working on. You really have to come and talk about it. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I'm working on that I think you'll be interested in. I know some of you might have been at the NCORE meeting, and my boss, Meg Mooney, spoke there. So I don't want to be duplicative, but I also want to provide information. So hopefully at the end, there'll be time for Q&A. Let's see. How do I do this? The green button. The big one. The big green one. The big, oh, of course. Did that work? This one, right? Oh, there we go. Okay. So mainly I have mostly one slide just to sort of highlight some of the things that we're working on that I think we're working to make your lives easier. And I have to thank Dana Sparks for the first one, the idea of having to all the NCTN groups talk about what the FDA has coined this phrase, decentralized clinical trial activities. And I don't think it's the easiest thing to say, but essentially what it is things that you've already been doing all along, even before COVID, when you're at a cancer center or whatever your hospital is and your patient's going to get their labs close to home, and that's considered a decentralized trial activity. When they get their weekly CBCs or whatever their labs are, that's a decentralized trial activity. And I'm sure most of you know that those things haven't been put in the protocols before, where you actually, you wouldn't write in your protocol, weekly CBCs can be done at home, because you could imagine how long our protocols would be if you cited everywhere where they could do something at home. But there's this balance where the FDA has this draft guidance out that says certain things should be in the protocol. Of course, they use the word should, not must, but should. So we know that, should doesn't mean you have to. So we're, this working group that we have that has membership from all of the NCTN groups. And actually, we just met with some of the 2 NCORE research bases to make sure they were included. what's the limited amount of language we can put in protocols so you all feel comfortable sending your patients maybe to get that standard of care chemotherapy on a protocol closer to home that has a qualified doc that your oncologist that you're comfortable with that will relay to you anything. So that's something we're working on and trying to juggle what it is that we're going to put in the protocol and what are the things that maybe we could just have on the CTEP website that would be policies in place that you just refer to the policy. And I think one of the things that I know my boss feels strongly about is the remote consent, that we shouldn't have to mention that in a protocol, that's really a local hospital thing, that if your local IRB allows you to do remote consent at your site, then that's all that needs to be done. Because I'm going to look at Laura and say, in terms of an audit, you just need to know that the consent, there was informed consent that took place and there is a signed informed consent. So anyhow, so more to come on that, but that's what we're working on, and hopefully that'll maybe be of help to you. And I think Dana's point is could there be consistency across the groups? So for those of you that work on multiple different NCTN group protocols, it'll be similar. So I think that's a good idea, and more to come on that. The next bullet item, streamlining clinical trials. How many people know what CTAC is? Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty good, because I was thinking most people don't. That stands for NCI's Clinical Trials Advisory Committee. And that's one of those federally funded advisory committees. They take experts from around the country and with oncology expertise that serve on it. And actually, I think Chuck Blanke is he still on it? I always keep forgetting who's on it and who's not, but there's always an NCTN group chair that's always on CTAC. Just to give you a flavor of who sits on this advisory committee. So at one of the CTAC committees, they talked about we need to really have streamlined studies. And I'm going to use Lung Pragmatica S2302. How many of you work on S2302, Lung Pragmatica? Okay, I guess I would have thought more hands would have gone up, but we'll have to work on that. So what I think of Lung Pragmatica is a streamlined clinical trial. I think it's like the poster child for what other trials could become in terms of reducing data collection on key parts of the study, so that improves your efficiency at a site to enroll patients in clinical trials. I think it's just much more streamlined. And that's the goal of this Streamlining Clinical Trials Subcommittee. So what they did is they came out with all these recommendations for details of data elements and what reducing the amount of data collection within each protocol. And the first set of recommendations are focused on IND exempt protocols, because you could imagine for IND exempt protocols, they really should be much more streamlined. And I think it just falls into old habits that you just keep repeating the same protocol data CRFs over and over again. So I think there needs to be more of a conscious effort with this effort that hopefully that'll take place. And I feel like SWOG's leading the group on this leading the network on this by having Lung Pragmatica, and hopefully that might be at least SWOG's attempt to also streamline future clinical trials. So there's an implementation committee that's now working to finalize some of the details around, well, which data elements and how much are we going to reduce? And each of the, this implementation committee has representation from all of the NCTN groups and all the data and statistical centers. So they're sort of duking it out about, who will accept, what as a final reduction in data collection. So that's in progress as well. And hopefully once that is rolled out and approved, we'll see that in more protocols besides Lung Pragmatica. So that's that topic. In terms of the NCI, the informed consent document template revision, I wish I could tell you that the big revision is going to cut it in half by pages, but if unfortunately there's so many regulations between the FDA, OHRP, that the main thing that we're working on with the revision is really improvements in plain language where we can, and maybe trying to you know, if we can make certain sections shorter, we will. But we're slow in getting this done because actually we've had a number of people reach out and say, oh, we want this group to review it and this group, because we really do want to cast a wide net for how we can make it better and improve it. We're still getting complaints that it's too long, but unfortunately, OHRP, what was that, in 2018, they came out with their revisions that added actually several pages to the consent with that overview and key elements that I know everybody hates and says is duplicative, and I'm sorry, but I had nothing to do with it. If I could, I'd get rid of it, but it's OHRP. So, you know, what they say has to be included, and that's what the IRBs will look for. So all I can tell you is that we're working to improve at least what we have and what we have to do. Again, I think SWOG's also done a great job, and you all have, I think, one-page summaries for your studies that I think are really nice as a precursor to a consent to get patients interested, that I know if I was in practice, I would use, because I can imagine, I just remember having 24, 25-page consents when I worked in some bone marrow transplant studies that were just, you know, the patients would look at them and just, you know, sort of glaze their eyes over. So I know still our template, probably the average page number is probably 14 pages, I would say, but I don't know, maybe it's more. Are you seeing more than that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot more. Okay. Well, we'll try, but unfortunately regulations are regulations and we have to follow them, but we'll try to be as tight as we can. And social determinants of health working group, I just wanted to mention this. This is also something the NCTN groups all asked for, asked NCI if we would converge a group to look at capturing social determinants of health in our studies. And my concern is that how many more questionnaires are we going to be asking our patients to fill out? So I'm really sensitive about that. But that actually, apparently that group hasn't gotten together yet. They've had nominees from all the different groups. So that's going to be forming. And then, I don't know, will people get slides? I put a hyperlink into the NCI director's update because I do think it's great that we have the NCI director is Dr. Monica Bertinelli, having a former NCTN group chair be the head of the National Cancer Institute. And I'm also a little biased because I really like having the first woman be a head of the National Cancer Institute. Yeah, let's hear it for that, right? It's been a long time in coming. And she, this is her update. But she's very passionate, and I'm sure those of you who've been at former Alliance meetings, and I think she's doing a great job at the NCI director, but in her current update, she did say our fiscal outlook isn't so great with Congress the way it is right now. So I am a little concerned about that, but we won't know until Congress actually does its work and gets a budget out, and we're still operating under continuing resolution. So, but I point you to her slides if you're interested in some of her remarks that she's made about the budget. But the sort of the short story is right now we're a little concerned about our fiscal future with Congress. But I'm going to stop there because I think we have to move along. But are we taking questions after everybody?
No questions online.
Okay.
Any questions in the room?
I always have questions.
Oh, good.
Amy, Consortium, going back to the CTAC working group, they put out that recommendation. There were 10 different items, and I know this is part of that.
Oh, yes.
Are you able to give an update on where they're at with all that? I mean, and also thank you to the people from MCI and continuing to work with the sites and finding ways to do trials better. So just thank you for that.
Oh, well, thanks. Really, thanks to you all. Yes, you're right. There were a lot of different recommendations, and I'm sorry I didn't come with them all, but I can pull up the slide deck and go over it with you if you're really interested, because I'm happy to do that. But the streamlining clinical trials, one that they've really worked on is the reduction in data collection. That's been the big effort. Was there one in particular that you were interested in?
This was the sure how they're prioritizing and like where the rest were. I mean, you can't do everything at once.
Yeah, well, this is the only one, the reduction in data collection is the only one that has an implementation committee. None of the other ones really have an implementation committee. Although there is one about decentralizing trial activities, and they heard about what we're doing. So they're like, oh, well, maybe we can just let the NCTN group work on that one. So I think they're sort of deferring that one to us, but that's the only one that has a formal CTAC implementation committee. Oh, right. Thank you. I did have a slide about that. Sorry, I forgot. I just wanted to make sure, is everyone aware that the CTSU is now doing EMR templates for all NCTN trials? If you're not, I put this slide in here for a plug that they started after March 13th. So all new trials will have EMR templates. And we're really working hard with all the groups to hopefully resolve all the potential non-billable items that come up. But sometimes they can be challenging, but we're really trying to work hard on working with the national coverage analysis. But the EMR templates will be there for all protocols that have any kind of investigational agent or that need the EMR templates. So that was my last slide, I think. Yes. All right, well, I'm around this meeting, so if there are other things that you wanted to ask me and didn't want to do it in front of there, feel free to pull me aside. I'm happy to answer anything I can or look it up. All right, thanks.
I've just been personally very encouraged about the partnership, the collegiality, the collaboration. A lot of the things that Andrea described are across groups. And I think we felt that more than ever in this last year, that things are not just solo at one group and nobody else knows about it, but that there's I don't know what the word is, collaboration, partnership, work together. We're doing a lot of things that are universal to help everybody. So I'm just really appreciative of the way you have listened and responded and all the progress. The next thing I'd like to share with you is some new terminology. There's a role title change and some new training materials, but I want to talk about our Oncology Research Professional Committee. And one of the things that has been happening as a result of a lot of hard work by many is development of a new head CRA training program. For years, many people who came to this meeting, especially, it used to be called a head CRA meeting long ago when I first started in SWOG, and it became site operations, and it was designed for head CRAs, and yet nobody really quite knew who we were. What is a head CRA anyway? And these days, what is a CRA anyway? It's a term that's been used for decades, but according to our professional societies, even the word CRA doesn't mean the same thing it used to. If you were to do a market survey on trying to find out how to benchmark salary, for example, CRAs are people that are doing monitoring visits for pharma. It's a term that has kind of grown into some nebulous nether region. So anyway, long story short, we are designing, based on feedback, a whole new approach to training for people that are leading their site. The other thing to help site leaders is a policy number 50, which is going to the Board of Governors for approval. So it's still in the works, but it's at this meeting that it will be approved. But a lot of work has gone into putting some guidelines and framework together as a recommendation and a guideline you can use with your own local institution to say, this is what this person should do. Here are some responsibilities that we need to do that we really should be doing to make sure we're strong and in good standing with NCI and with SWOG. So I think it'll be a help to many of us to define. Sometimes for people that know we do something with research, they're not sure what we do. And you go home at night and you don't even know what you do. So reading policy 50 is quite an eye-opener. We really thank the membership committee, the education leadership, and Dana for working on this and getting it in writing once and for all. Along with that came a moment to stop and say, what is our name anyway? So the executive committee for our ORP committee talked about it, thought about it, reviewed the policy, and the vote was unanimously to really continue naming us Oncology Research Professionals. It was felt to be the most inclusive name for us. Not everybody in our committee is clinical, so calling it a clinical research professional wasn't as inclusive as oncology, which is what we focus on. And for those of you who are in that lead chair, at your site. Maybe you're a manager, director, liaison. There's a lot of different words and job descriptions, but really looking at calling it a lead oncology research professional, making it as inclusive as possible. So to that end, there's some information that you can find on our page. If you go to the member resources and look for the Oncology Research Professionals Committee, there is something marked new resources, and underneath that is a lot of new educational materials that have been posted, including this lead ORP training. As you can see, all of these things that are blue underlines are links to active modules that have been posted since the last time we met. So a lot of people have been working really hard this summer. Those that are black aren't done yet. A couple of those are mine. I confess I'm way behind, but there's still more to come. So keep an eye on this page. This isn't just for lead oncology research professionals, but we wrote it and started there thinking, what are the things that people need to know to run your program? You may want to use this with your staff, with others in your network, people that just need to know more about research. So it's really your call how you use the information that's been developed, but it's a brand new tool that we have in our library that's really phenomenal. So to help celebrate how we came to pass and what led us to formalize this, it's been a wish list dream item for a bit. I want to introduce you to Annette Betley. She's one of our recently retired executive committee members. I've known Annette for a long time. When I started SWOG, I turned to her and said, I don't get the specimen management business. Can you teach me? She was with me on that. She was with many of us on that and helped put those guidelines into many protocols, lobbied to get kits back in the day. I remember getting these guidelines that said, well, here, do all this stuff, but we didn't have any of the stuff. So that was instrumental in helping to define what should be in a specimen management kit and get that for us. She also worked with us on the QA committee for, I don't know how long, decades, but anyway, as she was handing off her program, and as Annette is always known to be very thorough and well positioned for the future, she always looks far ahead and helps think about what's coming, as opposed to people like me that procrastinate till the last minute and then fly by the seat of my pants. And that's much more organized. So we want to share with you the introduction that she put together for the Lead Oncology Research Professional Workshop.
Welcome to the SWOG Lead Oncology Research Professional Workshop, and congratulations on your new role within the SWOG Cancer Research Network. I'm Annette Betley from the University of Michigan, and I recently retired in April 2023 after 39 and a half years, 23 years of which I served as a SWOG Lead Oncology Research Professional, or formerly the SWOG Head CRA. A little history for you. Shortly after I joined the University of Michigan CTO, or Clinical Trials Office, I was asked to pull out of the CTO and run the NCTN Cooperative Group trials independent of the CTO. I had the opportunity to bring along one other staff member, and from that day forward, we were on our own. I had a wonderful PI, Dr. Baker, who was supportive of and listened to my concerns and helped us to prioritize trials, to close out many trials that never were opened, and to clean up the backlog of data. I learned more than I wanted to about regulatory, how to complete an application, when to submit them in a timely manner, and preparing for audits and successfully passing them. We failed our first audit, and after that experience, it never happened again. I instituted the 6-month quarterly review audits to help catch common errors being made and to put corrective action plans into place to prevent these from happening again. I was introduced to the world of writing grants, and what an experience, along with continuing to open new trials, register patients, submit data in paper format, and oh yes, then there was the SWOG expectation report we reviewed and needed to get cleaned up so that we didn't lose our status within SWOG. Along with the expectation report came our 5 affiliate sites that I was responsible for reviewing eligibility and making sure that the data was submitted in a timely manner, because what they did or didn't do was a reflection on our main member status. I joined the Specimen Kit Committee and soon the audit team within SWOG as a data manager representative. I also joined the ORP, or the Office of Research Professionals, as an executive officer. The years went by. I had a new local PI for the grants, new investigators, and I hired 4 new staff. And now our platters are even more of tasks to be completed, more responsibilities, pressures, deadlines, being pulled in multiple directions, adding new staff, COVID, remote working from home, and the list can go on. So when it came time for me to step down in preparation for training my replacement, I began to write down all of the tasks as a manager, lead oncology research professional that I handled locally in our institution. This ended up being a 5-page list. So when I realized the documented breadth of knowledge I brought, the effort to the attention of the SWOG oncology professionals, or the ORP, Executive Committee, I wanted to leave a piece of my legacy behind as a guide for incoming SWOG lead ORPs so that they don't struggle and create functional tools that already are in existence. I spoke with Connie Shapanik, our ORP committee chair, who elevated the idea within the ORP committee and with SWOG staff. All parties participating site lead ORPs, ORP committee leadership, and SWOG network operations, cancer centers, and statistics, data management, and cancer staff. They all agreed and were committed to creating a lead ORP training workshop. The workshop is comprised of short video presentations or modules. Given the variety of roles and divisions of responsibilities across SWOG member sites, it was the intent of the organizing committee that the short module can be reviewed by you and then subsequently shared with your institutional staff as an individual class, if or as deemed appropriate and relevant to the responsibilities or roles of the staff at your SWOG member institutions. Moreover, each module slide set is posted as a PDF document and or file attachment that can be downloaded for ease of future references, and many of the modules contain links to additional support references, materials posted online. Finally, as an outgrowth of the workshop development effort, SWOG also developed the SWOG policy number 50, which provides a descriptive guideline for the lead ORP role, responsibilities, and updated the role title, which was formerly the Head Clinical Research Associate, or Head CRA. Throughout the workshop, some of the training modules may still refer to the former role title as a Head CRA, since the transition to use the lead role title occurred simultaneously with the launch of the training workshop. Overall, this has been an incredible, dedicated effort by all involved to help create the materials that outline both institutional requirements, responsibilities, as well as tips, tricks, and tools that may help you or your designated staff as you serve in this role. I hope you find this workshop informative, regardless of your member institution size or type. And remember to connect yourself with the staff you see when reviewing these slides. Join a SWOG committee, get involved, try to attend a SWOG group meeting. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Many of us who participated in the tutorial have made mistakes and asked many questions along the way. You are not alone. This is how you learn and how you become a better leader for your teams, and they will look up to you for success in their careers. I want to thank you all that have participated in making these tutorials come to fruition. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with all of you during my years of service within SWOG. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Annette. Let's give her a round of applause, please. We appreciate all that you've given us to build on further. You can trust it to us to keep on going. And when we're done, the next generation will help us beyond, right? There's lots of nodding. Write down names quick. Sign everybody up. So the next thing that we're going to do is highlight one of the modules that's actually part of this training workshop. And Liz is going to share with you one that she worked on regarding open funding, which is a really common problem and question that comes up among sites. And even some sites don't realize they should be paying attention to open funding. So a big stark reality in the middle of this economic climate of stress and funding shortages to really be alert to what's going on with your open funding. So Liz?
Yeah, I was really excited to be part of this group. Open funding has been a question that's come to me multiple times and to this group as a suggestion for training. So I was really excited at the opportunity and the timing of this really for the lead ORP training to roll out to provide a quick overview of the open funding module. This is just an overview of that module. So I'll provide a QR code to the link if you want the whole thing. And just to be very clear, this is just one of many modules, as you saw, over 30 modules. So let's get started. Okay. So every study has a funding memo, and these documents really help us understand the breakdown of the funds specific for that study. It explains the sources that pay those funds, whether it's federal or non-federal, the components that trigger those funds, like base intervention or biospecimens, the information you need to know to claim the funds from the study-specific notes or the open funding requirement, and the contact information. On the table on the left, I went ahead and circled all the items that require an action in open funding to trigger the funds to be sent to your site. And we know that because in the column enter date in open, it says yes. Once we identify the items that require the action, we need to know when. When do we need to actually do something? And that's important, especially for things with multiple time points, like biospecimens or questionnaires that are collected throughout a study. For that information, we'll look specifically at the notes. In this study, all of the biospecimens refer to note 1, which clarifies for us that payments are triggered with the completion of the first specimen within that category. So the first blood specimen or the first stool specimen. While we're here, the table on the left, we're going to look at the bottom there, that additional payment for specimen submissions row. The first thing we should notice there is that the answer to enter date and open says no. So there's nothing that we need to do specifically in open funding, but I want to call your attention to note number 2, and that clarifies that the funds are actually triggered by entering the information into SpecTrack, the SWOG specimen tracking system. This image is pulled from the Open Funding User Guide, and it gives us a really good glimpse of what the Open Funding tab actually looks like. It's where you're going to go to trigger those funds to be sent to you and put in the completion dates that we talked about, the items on the last slide. So the funding report runs a list of the different studies and the funding components for your site, and it's really helpful to see and keep tabs on how your institution is doing. The bullet points underneath that remind us of some really important information, one of which I'll talk about on the next slide. The funding type will help us locate the component that we're looking for, like the biospecimen or questionnaires. And then once we find that, we'll enter the completion date. The last item I want to talk about on this page is the comments field. Those comments don't go to SWOG and they are optional, but I do highly recommend using them because they'll help you keep tabs on your site, how it's doing. For example, if your patient misses a biospecimen for some reason, it happens, you can put that in the comments section. And then that way, when you pull your report in a year, 2 years, you're not doing any backtracking to figure out why the date is blank. So highly recommended. There's a few key pieces of information I want you to take away from today and keep in mind with open funding. First, and I think is probably the most important, is you have 1 calendar year from completion of the event to enter it in open funding. The system doesn't take anything outside of a calendar year. So a calendar year from today would be the last day we can enter in open. So that just means that we have to be vigilant and make sure that you're completing these dates as early as possible. The second thing is that there's no reminders that you need to do this. So you're not going to see it mentioned in the protocol. You're not going to get an email or a generated system reminder that you need to do this. So that means it's our site's responsibilities to make sure that we're remembering and completing and tracking this information. So over the years, sites have come up with a lot of creative ways to make sure to remind themselves or prompt themselves to do this. So you can add a reminder to a patient tracker, you can do a checklist or an email calendar reminder, or if you can, build it into your CTMS. Again, this is just a quick overview of this open funding module. If you want to take the whole thing, you can scan the QR code, but I highly recommend checking it out and the 30+ modules that are up and running.
Thank you, Liz. Next up is Dana Sparks, our Director of Operations for SWOG, who has done some amazing things this summer. I don't know if you had summer. Do you even know what season you're on, Dana? Probably not. But she's going to give us some updates that are really, really awesome, really reflective of what we've needed for a while.
Let's see if this works. Oh, perfect. So, I wanted to give a little bit of an overview. I also provided this at the in-court meeting, so some of you may have already seen this, that we've really focused on doing what we can do centrally as much as we can to reduce staff burden. One of the things that our leadership decided to do as part of our strategic retreat in whenever it was in June, is that we created a goal of trying to have at least 30% of trials be a balanced portfolio toward the more pragmatic trials or streamlined trials, as we were talking before, with the idea of minimizing data collection, having real-world eligibility, decreasing the required reporting of SAE data, and using as much standard of care procedures as possible. And so that the protocol doesn't have a whole lot of different procedures written into the protocol document. It allows the sites to use what standard of care at their sites. So we are definitely concentrating on moving more in that direction. Of course, the lung pragmatic study was our initial kickoff for that, but we already have 2 or 3 additional trials that are in development that are moving in this direction. And I think it's important to recognize that trials are not necessarily either pragmatic or not pragmatic. With every trial, you want to make the design of the study to fit the questions that you're asking, but also we can move the data collection in the direction of being more streamlined with any trial. So that's our goal. So it isn't just a case of saying this is a pragmatic trial, this is not a pragmatic trial, but moving our intent for data collection and real world eligibility toward making it easier on every trial. Some of them may be easier than others, but that's the goal, is to move in that direction for every trial. We also have consistent and ongoing efforts to reduce the number of revisions to protocols. I know you guys probably don't see this, but we do try. We do as much as we possibly can. And so part of the process that we use for that is continuing to review protocol documents before they're released to sites. First of all, to make sure that they're as clean as they can possibly be before they ever get to you. And then when we do have to make revisions, considering which kinds of revisions can be batched together and which have to be made in real time. So, hopefully reducing the number of revisions that you have to process. We have been collaborating with other research bases to improve audit consistency, and that's an ongoing effort as well. And continuing to offer remote auditing capabilities and different options for audits that don't require site visits or require minimal site visits. We also, as noted by this wonderful presentation, which is amazing to me, that with all of Annette's efforts and the whole group that put the content together, that this has been, the ORP training has been long desired, but always considered to be too complicated to approach. And it's amazing to me that we finally got here, but we want to and have been moving toward really expanding our network-specific training and study-specific training content. All of those training workshops are accessible via the training resources webpage on the SWOG website. And the newer training is also posted under the clinical research resources announcements. We also have been working significantly with CTSU to use their class training system, particularly for protocol-specific training, so that that's accessible by anyone within the network. I have to give a lot of credit to Kara Laubach, and I'm not even sure if she's here, but she's done all of this work. Our training manager really pulled all of this together, working with content experts to try to make this all happen. And one of the first things she did was she created a compilation of training opportunities that were already existing. What we wanted to do was create kind of a warehouse of training possibilities that were already available through the NCI, OHRP, other places. And Kara did that quite a while ago. When it came to the attention of CTSU, they were very appreciative of that. And they said, can we move this over to the CTSU site so that it's then very widely available? People don't have to search on the SWOG site to find it. So that's going to move over to CTSU. So we're donating Kara's work to the whole NCTN. And we definitely are still working on all of the decentralized trial activities that Andrea already covered. It's something that it's been very close to my heart, and something that I think SWOG has had a lot of real interest in trying to make sure that we provide as much flexibility to the sites as we possibly can. This is on the website where you go to find the training opportunities. So under clinical trials, clinical research resources, and then announcements and current training opportunities. A little more detail on some of the other things that Andrea talked about, but we've been working on with the NCI and other groups, is that we definitely want to make sure that we're using the advanced practice providers to both our benefit and their benefit. And so we've definitely been wanting to expand those possibilities and working with the NCI and other groups to make sure that can be recognized. And we also have been working closely with CTSU to make sure that those EHR spreadsheets are correct. And I think that the more feedback we get from you guys, the better they can become, because we're not in the trenches. So if you notice things on those spreadsheets that either we recognize they're not going to work with every system, but if we consistently get the same feedback from a lot of different sites, then we know there are some things we need to fix. Andrea already talked about the streamlining clinical trials, where we are part of that working group. And some of the things they've been working toward is really collecting minimal data. I mean, very minimal data. If the endpoint of the study is survival and it is an IND exempt study, it basically should and can reflect standard of care. So real world patient populations, real world administration of drugs, and very minimal data collection. Let's see. I wanted to reference, because these links, once you have the slides available to you, you can use the links, but the FDA draft guidance on decentralized clinical trials is really helpful, because to me, decentralized doesn't mean a whole lot. I don't think it's the right thing to call it, but this is the vocabulary they've chosen. But it's basically things like use of telemedicine, use of remote consent, use of laboratory that are in the patient's community rather than at the centralized site. So that's what they're referring to as decentralized, is that if an activity does not need to be done at a research site, how much can we allow for that? And that's what we're trying to figure out how to write into protocols. This is the list of many of the things we've been working on. So I think I've mentioned almost all of those, except possibly the direct oral agent shipment, which has been extended. And SWOG has also adopted the NCI practice. So not only oral agents that are under NCI IND, but also oral agents that are under SWOG held INDs can be shipped directly to the patient. A lot of things have happened. The CIRB SOPs have been updated to allow use of remote consent. That was finalized, I think, just this last spring. So it's relatively recent. The decentralized clinical trial activities, we have a draft document, and it's currently under review. We wanted to ensure that whatever we developed for NCTN would also be applicable to INCORP studies. So that's part of the continued discussions. And the document that we're working on right now, this checklist and sample protocol language, is intended to be used for the lead protocol groups, staff in writing the protocol document, so that by the time it gets to you, it will have the information in the protocol that you need to have to let you know what kind of decentralized activities are allowed. And we also want to make sure that there's enough information available to you, that language in the protocol isn't the only thing you're relying on, that there's some guidance information backing it up. And I just wanted to mention very quickly, in case you haven't already heard it, the NCTN and INCORP grant renewal timelines have been delayed by approximately a year. So we were anticipating submitting the NCTN grants by January of 2024. And now we're looking at January of 2025. Same thing for the INCORP grants. The submission dates, I think originally were planned for August of 2024, and those will be delayed till 2025 as well. Some of you probably have seen this, but you may not have, so I wanted to mention it very briefly. We were routinely within SWOG, and I think in some of the other groups as well, collecting either Social Security numbers or medical record IDs, not as a mandatory data field, but as an optional data field. And that has been eliminated now. So we will not be collecting that information
both for current studies and future studies. We're going through revision processes to make sure that the forms are updated unless the collection of those numbers is necessary for the protocol. So if we're doing some kind of Medicare linkage or something like that, we may need to collect some of those numbers if that's the specific reason for doing the protocol, but otherwise they will no longer be collected. And just briefly, because we've had some questions come up, we do consider information that's included in our protocol documents to be confidential, and information that is distributed about study results prior to final publication also to be confidential. We do release information specifically for the purpose of informing patients of study results prior to publication of the results. And we want to make sure that we, are true to our promise to patients that we will inform them as soon as we have information available to them about the results of the study. But that is specifically for patient notification purposes and is not intended to be shared with others. We've had issues with sharing of patient notification information on social media, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. So it's really important to keep that information confidential, to be shared with patients only until the results of the study are published. It does sometimes lead to difficulties with journals because they have a first release clause in a lot of the agreements with journals. So when you submit something to them, you're kind of making the promise that that information is not going to be released to the public until it's released to the by the journal. I wanted to mention briefly, this is a organizational chart of operations office leadership. So at the management level, and I'm not going to go through all the names and everything, but all of this information is available on the SWOG website. There are staff listings with details of what their job positions are and how to contact them. So phone numbers and email addresses. And I think, I'm not sure what this slide was for. Oh, there it is, our staff. So if you go onto the SWOG website, and you don't have to log in, but you click on the SWOG network and then pull down to our staff, that's where you can find the listings of staff people and their names and contact information. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Dana.
Did I ask for questions? Any questions?
Not in the chat.
Looks like we have one quick question from the floor here.
Rick? For the updates to the recommended decentralized language for the protocols, are you utilizing the tenets of engagement of human subjects research from OHRP as some of the guidelines? For example, like if they get their labs drawn at a hospital, technically that lab isn't engaged in human subject research, therefore ordinarily it wouldn't be a thing.
And actually a lot of those tenets have been incorporated into the FDA guidance document. And that's really what we're working from, is the FDA guidance document, but it basically all aligns with itself.
Because I was reading that document, I was like, this reads just like an expansion of the human subject research engagement.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of people have been working in this direction for a long time, and it's gone off in multiple different directions. And this is kind of a way to pull it all back together and really identify what are the essential components and how do we let sites know what's allowed and not allowed? Because I think that's really the critical piece of it, is that we can hide. I mean, there's a lot of information that we could say, oh yeah, you can do this.
Right.
But if it's not in the protocol document, how do you know you can do this? And so we want to make sure that we've got it documented, and that we also provide the support with some guidance materials that give you a little more detail than the language we can put in a protocol.
I think that'll be very helpful. I know IRBs have been using it for a while now, and I think that'll be very helpful to spell it out. Thank you.
Any others?
All right, thank you for your good work, Dana. Thank you very much. All right, next up to share with us is Leslie Weisenstein from membership.
I'm just going to talk back here if that's all right. I just have some brief updates. So as everybody's already aware, the annual accrual monitoring for sites has been suspended for some time, obviously because of COVID issues. And Dr. Blanky had allowed a subsequent recovery period for that. So we're going to be reinstating accrual monitoring for the next reporting period. And that will cover January 1, 2022 through May 30th, 2024. The reinstatement of accrual monitoring will be addressing not only accrual numbers, but also audit information and IPRs. And this will have more of an overall report card approach. Sites who are not currently meeting accrual or standards of compliance will be receiving warning letters in May of 2024. And they'll be notifying them they're in jeopardy of losing their SWOG membership status the following year. Institutions who receive an in jeopardy letter may wish to petition SWOG for an extension to retain their SWOG membership. And if you have any questions about that at that time, you just want to contact member@swog.org. And then just a few VA updates at this point. I've been telling people we have brochures in our office that you can order, but we anticipate having a new VA brochure sometime available in early 2024. So we have not put anything on the website yet about being able to order those. And once we have those available, we'll try and have a system where you can go online and order those. We recently, some of us in the office attended the annual AVAHO meeting, and that stands for the Association of VA Hematology and Oncology. That was actually just across the street a couple of weeks ago at the Sheraton. We have some exciting possibilities in the future in regards to that with AVAHO resources and some more direct interaction and involvement with Navigate, which we think will help both enhance SWOG efforts towards supporting VA trial enrollments. We're working on VA specific, wrong thing, excuse me. Let's see. We had a first VA storefront award selected back in the fall of 2022. As many of you know, it was officially awarded in January 2023, and that was the Audiel Murphy. The next storefront award cycle and the RFA should be coming in the spring or early summer of 2024. And once that has come about, we'll have information both on the website, and we'll be sending an email out to let everybody know about the application process and information. We've had several workbench updates. We've been trying to be busy, although Dana, I think, has been quite a bit busier than we have. So we have to catch up. Some of the recent updates we have include a national cost analysis training. There's also one of our SWOG presentations, which was done at the AVAHO conference. There were several presentations done there as well. And once AVAHO has released the recordings of those presentations, we'll be posting those on our workbench as well. Ongoing updates and upcoming events, we try and get those posted there as well. Any suggestions that y'all have, please contact us or contact me. As Dana pointed out, you can look at the staff listing on the website and with my name and contact me with any information that you have. As part of the VA program development team, we just had a meeting this afternoon, which was really quite productive. We're developing a VA strategic mission plan. And with that in mind, we're working on VA specific goals and action items, resulting in a very early working process over the coming months. But we have a really good start on some ideas that we have, and we're all really excited to start putting some of these in process. So I think that's all I have to share at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter will be Phyllis Goodman from the SDMC.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phyllis. I'm presenting on behalf of the SDMC. I have a couple of different topics to go over. But first, I wanted to talk about S1826. Rodney presented about this 6 months ago. 1826 was a lymphoma trial for patients with newly diagnosed advanced classical Hodgkin's lymphoma, a study of nivolumab versus plus AVD versus brentuximab plus AVD. Was permanently closed to accrual in the end of 2022 after enrolling almost 1,000 patients. At the planned second interim analysis, the SWOG Data and Safety Monitoring Committee recommended that the primary results of the study be reported because the endpoint of progression-free survival had crossed the statistical boundaries. There were 30 events on the nivo arm, 50 events on the brentuximab arm, and with a median follow-up of 12.1 months, the progression-free survival was superior in the nivo arm with less toxicity, and follow-up is continuing. Well, because of these results, Bristol Myers Squibb decided they did want to bring it, in fact, to the FDA for a post-marketing analysis. A memo was distributed in August of this year. So what does that mean for you? Well, upcoming amendment with some additional data collection, actually not data collection, but some additional scans that will need to be uploaded for some expected other time points. We're expecting that pretty soon, I think the next couple of months. But also we've been contracting with an external CRO called Avance for assisting study sites in this image submission and query resolution and resolution of other missing data elements on our CRFs. So you can expect an increase in queries as the study is reviewed more carefully by the data coordinators. There will be funding coming. That memo, I think it will be coming soon. It's in the works. Additional per patient payments, additional per image submission payments, and additional payments for auditing and monitoring. So they've begun their work. I think they visited at least or worked with at least 40% of the sites at this point. So if you put patients on that study, expect that in the near future. Next thing I wanted to talk about is really more what I deal with is expectations. And one of the biggest questions I get from expectations are about source documents. That's, I think after specimens, that's probably the biggest problem sites have. So I want to talk about what some of those issues are, common problems, and maybe how to attack them. So a lot of times people say, well, the SWOG expectation report and RAVE or DQP are different. Why are they different? I don't get it. I'm not seeing it on my RAVE report. Why are you bugging me for this? Well, they work differently. So SWOG expectation report sets up one expectation for each kind of source document. So a specific time point may have, one document or 3 documents or 5 documents, a path report, an op report, an image report to be uploaded. And they're all might be due within 15 days of that registration for baseline. The DQP report only looks to see if any source document has been uploaded. RAVE can't determine whether or not the required or correct documents have been uploaded, just is there something in that folder? As a result, our reports don't match. So while you might have submitted the path and the op report, if that image, the report from the image wasn't uploaded, DQP won't show anything because there's something on that form, but our expectation report will. So that's why they don't agree. Next thing that comes up is sometimes I get questions about why is there an expectation outstanding even though that document was uploaded? Well, when we set the expectations for a specific document, we're expecting a specific type of document, right? And that table here, and my red line around other report didn't show up here, but in that column where it says type of procedure, sometimes it might say document category, that's what we use for determining if the right thing has been uploaded. We're not looking at the name of the file. We're not looking at that comments form. RAVE can't read that. It knows those things in that type of document column. So if you upload something and it's an other report, we don't see it. So in this example, it's an 1803 example, the study has an outstanding expectation for a FISH report. Site uploaded a FISH report. I mean, I know that when I look at it, I can see it. It says FISH. In the comments, it said FISH. But RAVE is looking at that column of type of procedure and it sees other report. So that expectation doesn't get resolved. You've done it, but you've just labeled it wrong. So it's a simple solution. It's just going into RAVE, picking that right category. You don't have to re-upload the form. You just have to pick that right category. So another thing we see is that sites often submit more than they need to. Why create that problem? We only want you to upload what's requested for in the protocol. If you upload a document that's not requested, it creates work for your team. It creates work for the data coordinators at the SDMC, because if it's uploaded, they have to review it to make sure there's not PHI on it. So of course, then if there's PHI, then there's the back and forth to get that resolved. So in this example, the only source document that was requested on S2212 is a path report documenting that triple negative breast cancer. Path report was uploaded properly, no outstanding expectation, but the site also uploaded two other things that weren't needed, the MRI and the ultrasound. They weren't needed. So sometimes more is not better. So just some hints for what, when we're looking at source documents, what we expect to see. Just make sure you identify the documents requested and only upload those that are needed for the study. Review the source documents prior to uploading to ensure there's no PHI on it. That's a problem. Don't redact. There's some dates, like a birth date, you might need to redact, but don't redact dates that help the study chair review the context of what they're seeing in some of those reports. Also ensure that patient ID is on at least one page and that you choose that right type of procedure. So kind of in my preparing for this, it's like, what can we do to make this process easier? So I think we're going to go back and look at how we do things on our side. And I think one of the issues in choosing that procedure is it's a really long drop-down list on some of these studies. And the things we want are at the bottom and you have to scroll down to find it. So you don't see it. And so you choose other. So we're really going to think more about what we're showing as the option so that it's only the things that we really want. If we don't want you to upload images for anything, then let's not put that as an option. Also, how to make it clear what we're looking for, which of those to choose. So whether or not it's something in the protocol or whether or not we're going to include it on the RAVE, the instructions on the RAVE form, not sure. I think that's probably the direction we'll go, but we will try to make it easier so you know what you need to upload. And another thing is on some newer studies. I think it's being done on all studies being activated now, and it went back onto 1803 where it's a problem, is that when you do choose other report, there's a warning message, and the contents of that warning message are here, basically telling you you're uploading it, but it's not going to resolve an expectation. Figure out what needs to be done to resolve that expectation. So I think all of those things will help. Of course, going forward is always easier than going back and fixing what we've done, but I think on some key studies, we're going to try to do that. Another issue I've been asked to talk about is the loss to follow-up form. Yvonne gave a wonderful presentation this morning about loss to follow-up. And it's about this last contact date on the loss to follow-up form. So last contact date is what we use at the Stat Center. It's one of our most important pieces of data that we collect on our studies. It's the date we use to calculate how long a patient has been alive. It's probably used in almost every analysis and every manuscript. It's essential that we get it correct. So on this form, when we ask for date of last contact, what we're asking for is the date the patient was last successfully contacted, not the date it was attempted. So if you enter an attempted date here, we will now be incorrectly lengthening the length of time that the analysis thinks that patient is alive. The dates where attempts were made are collected further down on the form. And of course, only fill out this form when the patient reaches that time point when you can, per policy, fill out a loss to follow-up. So that's 2 years from last known alive, 3 documented attempts. So yes, I know this patient continues to show up on your expectation report. I always get questions. How can I get this patient off of my expectation report? You can't. They're there. It's kind of that monthly reminder, nagging. I guess I'm good at nagging. But remember, the IPR criteria that we have for vital status isn't that we expect you to have 0 patients that are overdue for follow-up. We know that you can't keep track of everybody, that it's part of the job, part of the nature of the trials we do. So our criteria isn't that you have 0% overdue for follow-up, it's that you have less than 15%. And we think that means that you're doing the job of following your patients as best you can. If it starts getting over that, that's when we're concerned, like something's not going right, that you can't, either you're losing that many patients or that you're not able to keep up. So as the institutional performance review lady, we do have some future plans to let you know what those are. The first one is that we're working on a new criteria about time to query resolution. You've been getting query reports from the dawn of SWOG, but we've never wrapped a criteria around when things are supposed to be done or how you're doing on resolving your queries. And DQP does have something. So we began distributing kind of a summary. We did that to you, I think in September of 2023, telling you kind of how many outstanding queries they are. Are they 15 days old? Are they 30 days old? Are they more than 13 months old? So we started circulating that to you. The next is to develop a policy around that. I brought it to the Quality Initiative Committee earlier this morning. We'll probably be updating policy number 33, which is our IPR policy, in spring of 2024. So stay tuned. We are going to be looking at that. So you're getting that summary. Maybe look at those ones that are really old. I will say there's work on our part to be done because I think some of those really old queries we can probably just delete at this point because they're just not relevant anymore. If it's 5 years old, it really doesn't matter. Another thing we're working on is the development of an overall site score. This was mentioned to me by Connie in the ORP Executive Committee last year. That's something other groups do, kind of a way of knowing not just when you're not doing well, but how well you want to know how well am I doing, right? We're all grade driven. So we're looking at developing an IPR site score. We'll have the plan right now is maybe like 5 categories of sites that are doing excellent, very good, good, adequate, poor, just so you know how you're doing. We'll be acknowledging the excellent sites at the plenary sessions, along with the sites that do really well in accrual. But this is currently under review by the Quality Initiative Committee as well. We'll probably be wrapped up in that policy number 33 update that what I'm anticipating next spring. A reminder, we have this thing called the SWOG Report of Studies. I don't know how many people are aware of it. We develop it at the SWOG SDMC every 6 months in conjunction with this meeting. It's posted on swog.org. I think it's also part of the meeting materials. If you go to swog.org, it not only has the current one, but it has many years in the past. You go there, you can find information about committees, information about individual studies. It's really a great resource. But the other thing that's in there that I think maybe people aren't aware of is we have a chapter called Accrual Summary. An accrual summary has information about accrual by sites by committee, all sorts of breakdowns, different ways of looking at it. There's patient characteristics across SWOG, including now that's always been there. Now we do it also by disease committee. So if you're interested in issues of, DEI, you can see some of what's being done on different committees there. So be sure to take a look. It's a resource out there that we want to make sure you're aware of. And I think lastly, let me just make sure before I say that. Yes, lastly, we've all been busy at the operations office, developing the protocols. Rodney presented last meeting about the number of studies that were activated in the first quarter, 4 more studies activated in the next, quarter 2 and 3, another 2 or 4 somewhere in there that will be activated in the next quarter of this year. So everyone's been very busy getting studies out there. We're hoping that you're getting them activated at your sites and that you'll be putting patients on them because accrual is important to the group. It's one of the things that is the way we'll be evaluated when it comes time for the grant. So getting our accrual numbers up is always really important. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Yale Cancer Center. Oh, there I am. Hi, Kara Pavlik from the Yale Cancer Center. I have a question about expectation reports. Has there been any consideration of including triad uploads to those? I know that's been a sticky problem for us when it comes to audit season.
Triad upload.
So central imaging.
No, I know, but there are expectations for that right now, aren't there?
They don't show up on ours. Am I the only one?
I'm looking to my staff in the back. Don't we have expectations for triad uploads?
So we usually have to work individually with the triad like help desk. Like if we have an audit coming to say, can you just send us what's been uploaded so far?
So
and then we cross check.
let me talk to you afterwards, because I think that there are for some of the uploads, but not necessarily all of the uploads. I think that might be the disconnect.
Okay, thank you.
We do have one item in the chat. So with the other drop-down menu, the option, when are we supposed to use it? It sounds like it just shouldn't be utilized in most cases. Is that correct?
Yes. So I've just been spending time recently looking at that a lot. When I look at how much stuff is called other, it's a huge amount of stuff we don't want. And so I think whether or not we really don't want it or we haven't labeled it well, like right now on 1823, clinic notes are an option, but before that was an option, people were doing other report. I'd say it's very limited, but there may be a reason why. So, but you're right. Why do we bother having it?
Well, thank you, Phyllis, and thank you for how your team listens, supports, tries hard to help as opposed to beating everybody up and being punitive. It's deeply appreciated. Thank you. Next up is our wonderful fearless QA leader here, Laura Gonzalez, who will share with us some updates about QA.
Hi, y'all. So the good thing about going last is that most everything else has been covered. So I really don't have very much to tell y'all about. The big thing that I wanted to talk about was the DTL, the SWOG delegation of task log. So we've updated the templates. And for those of y'all that may not be aware, because we've hit y'all with so much information so fast and so furious, we sent out a memo that went out in the SWOG update 9/15/23 and the CTSU blast 9/22/23. So you might want to go back and check to see. So basically what we've done is we have removed the we took away, it used to be that the APPs, the NPIVRs could not do eligibility and endpoint assessments. And we were like the only group that was swimming upstream on that one. So we removed that. And so now that can be assigned to your APPs, your PAs, anybody that's an NPIVR can now be assigned eligibility assessments and endpoint assessments. So all the new DTLs that are going out, it's automatic. They've gone back, the CTSU folks had to go back and like fix all the old DTLs. So that was kind of where the rub was and why it took us a little bit longer to release the memo than we initially wanted to. So they've updated all the old DTLs. And so just, you can look at the memo, because if it doesn't, if I remember correctly from what the brilliant people at CTSU told me, is that you don't have to do anything if you don't want to, but you can want to make new assignments, and then you would have to have your clinical investigator go back and re-sign it. But you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. So it's up to the sites to decide how they want to manage that. So DTL template updates. And then the next thing that we're super excited about, because of course we're focusing on education, we've started quarterly QA webinars. So Rosie and Maggie did the first one on CAPAs. So we have a new CAPA template that goes out now if with your audit you have any of the components that have needs improvement. So acceptable but needs follow-up, we'll send you a new CAPA template. Our next webinar is going to be next Friday, I think, next Friday. And so that's going to be me and Rosie again. And we're going to be doing an overview on audit preparation. And then Rosie's going to just kind of answer questions on things that we see at audits. And we promise to turn off the recording at that point so you can ask any question you want. Don't be scared. There's no dumb questions, I promise. So be sure and sign up for that. We want everybody to attend that has the time to do it. And then, like I said, we're not going to be recording. So the questions, we're just going to take them as they come. And we promise no dumb questions. So we want everybody to try to attend that. And we welcome all comers, all questions, anything burning about audits, about audit prep, about what you need to know. We're here. Like we always say, for audits, we come in a spirit of love and education. We want to support y'all. We want to provide the education. We want to provide information. We don't come to pick y'all to death when we do audits. Everybody on the audit team has been in your scrubs and Danskos. We know what y'all go through. We know what drives you crazy. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. And so we want to be helpful. So that's all I have. Okay, thanks.
So next on the agenda would be Casey Dawson and Pat Mize from the Group Chair's office with some financial ideas and updates and other good news.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Pat Mize, Grants, SWOG Grants and Contracts Manager.
I'm just looking over your shoulder at the prompt. The prompt over there. Sorry, that's creepy.
So well, I don't have very many updates, but I did want to give you guys our emails again. We presented these as new last group meeting, but so we have specific distribution lists for federal, non-federal, and then a general funding at SWOG.org for national coverage analysis questions or any general funding questions, or if you're not sure where it goes, that's a good bet. So I also wanted to give an update on our SWOG Grants and Contracts Coordinator. So we did vet some excellent candidates. We did have a finalist who I believe just accepted our offer today. So we're hoping that she will start on October 30th, I believe is scheduled for her first day. And so hopefully she will be here next group meeting so you guys can meet her. And then I just also want to let you guys know that we will be at the ORP Open Forum. Please stop by and say hi, even if you don't have any questions. But if you do have questions, then please come by and we will answer them for you.
Thanks, Pat. You missed it. I'm so glad she's here because she was presenting at another meeting and I was like, am I going to have to present her slide? I don't know. So thanks for being here. I'm Casey Dawson, Assistant Director of Administration, and I don't have a formal presentation, but I do want to share some thanks and some congratulations. So on behalf of Dr. Blinky and SWOG leadership, thank you to the SDMC and the Network Operations Center. You saw the list of trials that have been open this year, and then the list of trials that will be open before the year's end. And that's a really big accomplishment. So thank you to all in the room that made that happen, and outside of this room, obviously. And then also a huge thanks to those of you who've opened those studies. Okay. All right, this is a good end of the day, I think. Just a big thanks, basically, from Dr. Blinky and all of us. We really appreciate all that you do. You had SWOG's mission up earlier, and not only are you helping patients and giving patients opportunities and opening and giving them access to clinical trials, but you're also helping SWOG meet our goals and our mission by opening these clinical trials. So thank you so much. Phyllis mentioned, this is a huge part of our grant renewal. So we'll be happy to report success for this year in the upcoming grant renewal. Thank you. The other plug I want to give is for SWOG CTP, which is our non-federally funded study mechanism. We had a whole meeting earlier today. If you're interested, I think the recording will be posted. We hope to have some open trials in the new year, and we hope to maybe have a table at the open forum. We can talk later. That's specific to CTP. We can talk to you all about how to get involved, what that means, what we're doing. So if you're interested, check out the recording. I'm always available. And that's the other thing I wanted to say. You've heard it more than once today, but be in touch. We are accessible. Your voices are heard, as evidenced by lots of things we saw today. And I learned so much when I sit in this room from all of you. And so please be in touch with all of your brilliant ideas, complaints, gripes. We will do what we can to make things easier for you. And that's it. Thanks so much. Thank you.
All right, everyone, I'm just going to wrap this up with a few closing remarks. So first of all, I want to thank all of our speakers this evening who gave a really broad but in-depth amount of information tonight from different angles across SWOG. We can see how we all work together and try to educate from different angles. I also want to give a big shout out to Courtney Willie, who makes this whole event happen. It wouldn't be possible without her. And again, double thanks for a delicious dinner. I also like to thank the co-chairs here. So Connie and Liz, thank you for always getting things done, and you're a dream team to work with. So
also add thank you to John and Anthony over here. Things were not going so smoothly earlier today, and these guys fixed all of our audio-visual technical needs. Thank God.
And then I just want to give you a few reminders. So tomorrow we have a couple of really great sessions starting at 8 in the morning. We have the Oishi Symposium. It'll be really informative. Please come. And we also have the ORP Open Forum running at 12:30 to 2. We'll have lots of tables with lots of different topics covered as well. And then please consider attending the 2024 SWOG group meeting. It's running April 3rd to the 6th next year. It'll be held at the Hyatt in Seattle, Washington. Hope to see you there.
One last comment, if you're planning to come and you need travel award funding, I meant to mention it earlier and I'm sorry I didn't, but the applications for travel awards end earlier than the group meeting is posted on the website. So if you're thinking about coming, but you know you're going to need funding, watch for that in January. It closes around February 1st. So make sure you get in on that so that we have an opportunity to help sponsor those who need help getting there in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.